Hey, Fae folk, welcome back. So for today's video, I want to talk about Barbie, but like not the typical Barbie that you tend to think of, because I want to talk about the few times that Barbie has really gone in a different direction from her sort of stereotypical girly pop, pink everywhere look and done something a little bit darker, a little bit edgier, a little bit more alternative. I know like there are very specific terms for different subcultures, like goth is actually very distinct from punk and punk is very distinct from emo and scene, etc. I'm probably just going to end up using like very generic terms like edgy or alternative for this video just because I don't feel like I'm necessarily the best at classifying things very precisely into fashion subcultures. So I did just want to say that right out the gate. I'm sorry if that bothers anyone, but I feel like it's just easier for me to be like, oh, edgy Barbies versus, oh, this is exactly this because of this and this and this, because I don't actually know all of those things. But yeah, I thought it would be fun to take a look at some more alternative Barbies. The reason this came about is I was talking with one of my friends. She also has a YouTube channel here, Keisha. And we were talking about Barbies that like represent us. And so I immediately was like, okay, let me see if I can like find or think of any Barbies that sort of look a little bit more like me. And I'm definitely not like the most alternative person ever, clearly. Like I dress a little bit darker, a little bit edgier. I'm not like full blown like goth every day. Kudos to those people. I just like, quite frankly, don't have the energy to maintain that sort of aesthetic, but I still do dress in a way that is a little bit darker than you might typically see from Barbie. And so I was sort of struggling to find any Barbie that's like really representative of me. And so I thought it would be a fun idea just because it was like something that I was looking at and doing. I was like, oh, I wonder what like the most alternative Barbies are. So I asked you guys on the community tab to submit your recommendations for that. That's a kind of weird word. Recommendations is maybe not it. But I just wanted to know from you guys, like if you might have more knowledge than I do about different Barbies that have existed over time. So I asked you guys to tell me what are the most edgy and alternative Barbies, and you definitely delivered. So thank you to everyone who did answer in the comments. I also got a couple of DMs on Instagram, so thank you to those people as well. I'm not going over every single one just because one, I do want this to be sort of like a quicker, just like easy little video, but also for me personally, I don't necessarily think that all of those were like edgy. And I mean, given that it is a very generic term, I completely understand why you guys like submitted some of the things that you submitted. Like, I'm not trying to dunk on anyone who was in the comments of that post whose like inclusions I didn't include. But some of the submissions were sort of like, it's a normal Barbie, but she's got one tattoo. And it's like, I definitely understand. Again, like, I know for some people that is a threshold of edgy. And especially when you put it in the context of dolls that are being made for kids, I was going to say, especially in the past, but like, look at where we're at now. But like, parents, especially, I think have a very, very different threshold for like alternative looks than adults might have. And so I'm not trying to like again say that you're wrong if you submitted one of those Barbies, because I'm sure that like the response from parents, again especially, was like, oh my god, this is so edgy. And like, I don't know how I feel about, like, I'm sure that there was controversy. I'm sure that that is edgy for like some people. I just wanted to like draw a little bit more of a further down the line. Like, I just, to me, that's not really edgy. So again, that's not like me saying I'm right and you're wrong. Everything is subjective there. I just kind of wanted to explain why some of those submissions didn't make it into the video. But yeah, that's what we're going to do today, is just take a look at some darker thematic Barbies. I'm going to give you my opinions on them because that's what we do here, and hopefully we'll just have a good time talking about the occasions where Barbie is not dressed in pink and she's not wearing like typical everyday clothes. So let's just jump right on in. So we're going to go ahead and start with what I think was the most popular response that I received, like the one that I received the most, and that is the Haunted Beauty lineup of dolls. This was a like collector series of Barbies. There are 4 dolls to take a look at, and honestly, each of them is definitely beautiful in their own way. So the first one is this Ghost Barbie. She is so just ethereal and gorgeous, but she does have that little bit of like tatteredness to the fabrics, a lot of unfinished edges that definitely make her look a little bit more spooky. This is funny because, like, realistically speaking, a lot of elements of this Barbie are definitely like not necessarily what you would think of when you think of different alternative subcultures. I mean, she still has like the blonde hair. It's very platinum blonde, but it is still like blonde hair. If the dress weren't sort of tattered like that, this would honestly fit perfectly fine on like a goddess style Barbie, which I personally wouldn't like. It's very thematic, but it's not really alternative to me. So I just find it interesting how just a few little tweaks can suddenly make it definitely feel a lot more, again, like spooky and more on that like dark side of things. The dark makeup definitely helps. Again, the tattering, the chains really add in there. She is absolutely gorgeous. This lineup, they're so expensive secondhand, so I will never own any of them, but I would love to own 3 out of the 4, and she is one of those. Like, I'm never going to because I'm not going to spend that much money on a doll. But I can't judge anyone who does because she's gorgeous. And then we have what I think might be my favorite from the lineup, and that is the vampire Barbie. She's just so like extra and so fun to me. I do love vampires in general, so I'm probably a little bit biased, but the silhouette is just so bonkers. Like she's got this huge bun, lots of hair coming down, like this huge sort of like face framing ruff almost, the puffy sleeves, the big skirt. And then if you zoom in, she's got like a layer of sheer black fabric over the body of her dress that really just like darkens it and sort of enriches it and definitely makes it feel again a little bit more spooky. I love the accents of it looks like gold from the image that I'm seeing. I obviously have not held this doll. I haven't seen her in person. So like I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure it's gold at like the cuffs and around her waistline and then also at the neck. That's a really good one. Again, the makeup is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, like the super pale face with like the intense eyebrows and everything, the dark red lip. I just love her. And again, I do love vampires, so of course I'm going to like her, but she's so beautiful. This whole line is really tinging more because again there are so many different like styles of alternative that you can be and like that you can dress. This one is definitely feeling a lot more towards like spooky Halloweeny. This line as a whole, I mean it's called Haunted Beauty, so I guess that makes sense, but I just find it so ethereal and so beautiful but also so haunting, and I just that's a theme that I really gravitate towards. I love it. Okay, this one's interesting to me. This is the Mistress of the Manor Barbie from, again, the Haunted Beauty line. And I feel like she's one that I have just sort of overlooked. Like, I've been aware of this line. I kind of knew that it was going to come up for this video. But I always think of the other 3. I think of the ghost, the vampire, the zombie, which we're going to take a look at next. I don't really think of this doll. But now that I've seen her and, like, really taken a second to actually look at this doll, she is one, again, much like the ghost and the vampire, that I would love to own. She's just got a very different sort of spookiness to her. And this one's also funny because, again, like sort of how we talked about the ghost, how if you just tweaked a few things here or there, that might read a little bit more goddess than a little bit more creepy. Realistically speaking, if you made a few edits to this doll, I think she could be more of like a historical looking doll. I'm not sure how accurate she would be because I'm not a fashion historian, but like this could believably be like a fantasy historical doll if you just switched up like the hair and the makeup. And then I think too the oh shoot, I'm gonna forget what that's called now. Oh no. I know the name, but I like forget so many things as soon as I'm on camera. I don't know why. I just like can't think of words when I'm on camera. But she's got like the face silhouette on like the brooch at her neck. I something about that I feel like adds to the creepiness. The candelabra and the keys too. It looks like the candelabra has got like some bat wings, some skulls, like some spider webs molded on there. So that's obviously adding to the creepiness. And like the color scheme really helps. She's absolutely gorgeous. I kind of feel bad that I haven't paid a lot of attention to her before. And again, like kind of towing the line of like edginess or alternativeness just because she does have a lot of elements that read more historical, but there's just enough there. Just enough there to make her creepy and a little bit weird. And then the last doll in the Haunted Beauty line is the Zombie Bride, which is the one that I like don't particularly care about personally. I'm sure you guys, if you've seen any of my videos before, are aware. I just really don't like zombies. They super freak me out. So this one's really not for me. But that being said, She's definitely doing spooky. Again, I know I keep repeating myself. I'm sorry. I'm aggravating like that. But like this whole line really is just you could make these quote unquote normal Barbies. Like if this was in pink, she would not be featured in this video. If she was just like even in just white, like a regular wedding dress. I mean, I think she is in a lot of white. It's kind of hard to tell with the lighting in this picture, but the base doll is what makes this definitely very, very creepy. Because even the dress doesn't really look that tattered or anything. Like the veil's got a little bit of something that like maybe a slightly uneven edge there, but it's really the base doll that sells this. That like blue skin, the sort of like bluish gray hair color combo, and again, the face, like the screening. It's doing the heavy lifting to make this a nice, like creepy doll instead of just another bride Barbie. And I just think that's kind of fun. Honestly, it's very interesting to me how like close to again like quote unquote normal, like the societal norm, a lot of darker or edgier dolls and just looks in general are. So much of it is in like the exact styling and the coloring and like the accessorizing and the makeup. I just find that sort of a fascinating thing because I feel like again, there are very, very like extreme looks that are definitely more out there and like a lot further along the like alternative line. But it's fascinating to me how easily you can turn something that is, again, otherwise socially like quite normal into something creepy and edgy and alternative just by tweaking a few things here and there. I don't know like what that has to do with this video. But that's where we are. And then we have one entry from the Faraway Forest collection. This is the Queen of the Dark Forest. The rest of that collection is absolutely gorgeous, incredible dolls. They're just not included in this video because they're definitely more tinging on like the fantasy side of things than the alternative side of things. This girly pop is both though. I love her so much. She's so funky. Another one, it's very expensive. I will probably never own her because of that. But this is so, so cool. I love the texture of this doll, like the faux sort of like snake skin pattern that she's got going on all over everything. I feel like that's very unusual for dolls to see that on like the whole outfit. Like that usually feels like an accent or like one piece of an outfit, not so much necessarily the entire outfit, but I really love seeing the entire gown made in this. The extreme sleeves, adore it. The accessories are so good, like the staff and like the plastic collar, the hair, this face. She looks evil and I love it. I love that for her. She is so so gorgeous and definitely quite an edgy doll. Now we're going to go ahead and bring it like a little bit more back down to earth. Those were definitely quite fantastical themes of dolls, and we have a few more to look at that play into that theming, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at some more dolls that are like edgy in a very everyday, like you actually could see a human being walking down the street wearing this sort of designs. And the first little set is the Hard Rock Cafe Barbies. Now there are a lot more of these that I'm going to show you because again, I'm trying to keep this like a more digestible video, and unfortunately I don't know how to shut up. So in order to keep things easily digestible, we have to scale down the number of dolls that we're looking at. But this is like a whole rabbit hole that you could go down, like the Hard Rock Cafe Barbies. Again, there are so many of them. This first one, she's got little elements of pink that definitely make her still feel quite Barbie, but there's no question that she's like a rocker girl, right? She's got like the leather with the skirt, the fishnets, the tall boots. I especially really like the, not gloves, because like they're not on her wrist. I guess these are technically arm warmers. I think when I think of arm warmers, I think of them fitting more like leg warmers where they're sort of like loose, but I suppose you would call these like fishnet arm warmers. The scarf too being so like bedraggled and tattered, like it's pink, but it's still edgy. And I do think that that can be kind of fun to play around with making like these dark alternative looks that aren't reliant on the entire look being black, because that's not the only way to be alternative. And I just think that that's definitely really, really fun. I wanted to highlight her from the Hard Rock Cafe lineup just because she does feel so like Barbie meets Hard Rock Cafe, if that makes sense. I know they're literally all like the collab. Like I know that, but I think because of the inclusion of this baby pink, something about it just feels like a much more in the middle collab versus like a this is Hard Rock Cafe on a Barbie. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think she's really cool, really fun. These dolls, I mean, because there are so many of them, they sort of like range in price. I don't know that I would ever go out of my way to get one. If I found one for a good deal, I'd definitely be open to it. But they're pretty cool. And then the second one that we're going to go ahead and look at is one that you guys like specifically mentioned. So a few of you did mention like the Hard Rock Cafe Barbies in general, but one of you highlighted this one in particular. And I totally understand why. She is so cool. I love the pop of color on her guitar, but looking at the outfit, this is so good. This is definitely a very alternative Barbie. I think the way that her hair has been color blocked is super cool. She's got the black bangs and then just some black in her ponytail, but the black bangs, that is really working for me, like contrasting with the rest of the hair being pretty blonde. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I think there is some black in the hair. I'm having a little bit of a hard time telling if that's a hair accessory or the actual hair from this image. I'm so sorry. But like she looks cool, and then the outfit, come on now. I've gone through many different fashion waves in my life. Like I can never have a consistent style. But this is like a dress that I would have yearned to own when I was in high school slash like my early adulthood, like those first few years out of high school. Oh my God, I would have killed for an outfit like this. So good. I think there's always something to me about like plaid that is going to feel a little bit alternative, not because it is inherently alternative or even necessarily rooted in alt styles. Like that's not what I'm trying to say, but I just think for me in like my my formative years, I so often saw plaid, especially like a red plaid like this, being paired with black and corsetting and fishnets, exactly like this Barbie. So she very much feels like quintessential like 2010 through like 2018 alternative to me, and I'm absolutely living for it. Like I didn't even check and see what year this came out. I think it might have been like 2011. I could be wrong. I could be so far off, but that's the era that it is reminding me of, like the era in my life. I don't know if that was necessarily like exactly when this stuff was fashionable. Again, I'm not a fashion historian. I'm just talking about dolls. But yeah, there's something about her that feels so like quintessentially alt to me, and I really appreciate her for that. And then another lineup of slightly more casual looking Barbies. These are the Tokidoki collab dolls. I've got three of them pictured here for you. These are really fun. And these are also ones that like, to me, first of all, they're on like a slightly more like colorful end of alt. Again, you can be edgy without having to dress in all black. And I do feel like Tokidoki is like in a way a mainstay of alternative culture, but again much more like colorful. There's definitely black in these designs, but you're also getting a lot of colors, a lot of like this super fun cutesy art style, and I think it's really cool to see that and like have the two mesh together, and it's just such a vibe, such a look. One of you guys actually sent me like articles about this collab because it was apparently quite controversial. I'm sure several of these could have been considered controversial, but these in particular, it was because of the tattoos on the dolls. Like parents were not happy about this because we have seen, again, like there are dolls that I didn't include that are like more societally normal looking dolls that have like one tattoo, and I didn't include those in this video. I mean, these dolls are pretty decked out in the tattoos. Two of them you can see very clearly have like full chest pieces and sleeves and everything like that. And apparently that was very controversial, which is quite funny because these were marketed as collector dolls. It's not like, to be clear, I don't think that there's an issue whatsoever if a doll full of tattoos was on the shelves at Walmart and Target. Like, it's not that serious. You're going to be okay. They're just tattoos. It's just art. Like, as long as they're not explicit tattoos, which they would never put on a Barbie doll, I don't see an issue with it. I don't see why that's like such a controversial thing. But the point is, these dolls weren't marketed as playline dolls. They weren't supposed to be dolls that like every little boy or girl could go pick up super easily. They're marketed as collector dolls. So it's like you would sort of have to go out of your way for your child to be exposed to these, and yet parents are still pissed off about it. I don't know, just like conservative parents don't make any sense to me. I don't get it. But I think these are really fun. Again, a different style of alternative, but I think it's really cool. And I personally really love the tattoos. I think that's not something that you see a lot on dolls, even within the realm of like edgier dolls. I mean, Monster High in general is considered like a edgy doll brand. We've talked before on the channel about like how apt that description may be, but it is considered a rather edgy doll brand. And almost none of those dolls have tattoos. So it's just sort of interesting to get to see dolls that are super heavily tatted up, and I love it. I would love to see something like this, but like, in the current day. Like I would love to see whether it's Barbie or just a different brand do something like this. I think that would be so fun and it would stand out so much. Okay, I gotta keep it real with y'all. There's no way I'm gonna be able to pronounce the name of this Barbie, so I'll put it up on screen here so you can read it and attempt to pronounce it for yourselves. My mouth doesn't move that way. I cannot pronounce that one, and I don't want to butcher the name. But this was a convention exclusive. I believe the commenter said that this was from 2013. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong and just misremembering that, because I didn't write it down, because why would I ever be prepared like that? But just looking at the doll herself, this is so gorgeous. I don't even know where to begin. I am obsessed with this doll. I did not know that this one existed up until I read the comment about it. And in some way, I sort of wish that I didn't know, because I will never own her and I want her. She's so pretty. Like the umbrella with it looks like a little skull at the top of the handle is so good. The studded shoes, we're kind of going bottom to top. The like knee-high socks that she's got going on. Obviously, the spider webbing all over the outfit is super duper fun. She's got like a very outerwear vibe going on, which I think is really cool to see. Like it's just kind of heavy, and I do think that that can lend itself to a more alternative theming. But the star of the show for me is her hair. This is, oh my God, I can't even find a word for it. This hair is so incredible. I don't even know how to begin to dissect how this was done. So I can't even like recreate this on a doll of my own, because I know for sure I'm not that good at doing doll hair. Like there's no way I could ever accomplish something like this, but it is so gorgeous and so striking. And like the intense red with this outfit, I think is such a cool contrast, because honestly, not that it's historically accurate, but there are elements of her doll that are giving like a little bit of like slight historical inspiration with the outfit. But then the hair feels so modern and so like rocker, like you'd see a musician wearing this sort of hair. And it's just a really fun contrast. So, wow, I'm obsessed with her, which is bad, but like also she's gorgeous. So now I get to think about her. Then once again, we're going to be going in a different direction. We've seen some casual, some more like historical-ish / fantasy inspired lines. And now we're going fantasy, but we're going like alien fantasy. And I believe this was called, shoot, I'm actually going to double check because I'm Space Collector line. That one I did have sort of ready to look up. So this was a line of 3 dolls that are all, as the name might imply, sort of space themed, but all of these are definitely going into the realm of edge, right? Like we're not looking at like pretty little princess aliens, okay? These girls have got some looks going on. So this first one is the Queen of the Constellations. Something about this is feeling quite Star Wars-ish to me, and it's not just because it's like a space thing. I've never seen Star Wars. I know, criminal. I get it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm sorry. I just like don't care. But something about the hairstyle is like making me think of Star Wars in a way that the other 2 dolls from this collection don't make me think of that. I don't know if that was intentional in any way, but I'm just pointing it out. The silhouette is so interesting to me, and I think it's really cool to see, just because like, I mean, if the theme is aliens, what can't you do, right? Like, who is to say what the height of fashion is when you're in outer space? And I just think this is so fun how they've played with this, like, sort of like coat-ish piece on top. I don't know exactly what you would call that, but like the insanely sharp shoulder, I think is so cool. And then the way that it like sort of trails into this longer piece that goes down and frames her body, like this is so different. Again, like a very different type of alternative, not necessarily the type of alternative that you would typically see just on the sidewalk, at least certainly not where I live. But it's so fun and so cool. And like, I could see where this goes too far into fantasy for some people to really be considered alternative. So again, like I said at the beginning, and like I'm sure I'll say again at some point in the video, because again, I am a broken record. Like alternative just means something different to different people, and I think that that's really fun and interesting. But I feel like you could have gone in a very different direction with space lines or a space line that wouldn't feel so alternative. So I felt like it should be included because they all feel very like dark and edgy to me. But she's sick. She is, I will say, my least favorite out of the three because the other two I just think are spectacular. And now that I'm looking at them, the other two, I don't even know which is my favorite because I think they're both just unreal dolls. I'm so sad that I wasn't like really paying attention when these were released because now I will never, never own them. But this next one is the Goddess of the Galaxy. She's so, so good. She's got like almost like a historical French sort of looking makeup and hair. Again, I know it's not like perfect. I'm not trying to be like, oh, this is exactly what this person historically wore, because I don't know, first of all. And two, I'm certain that's incorrect. But something about it is giving like a hint of Marie Antoinette, which I think is very, very interesting. But then the rest of her outfit is like armor. And it's just so, so sick. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. I do think that with this one, I mean, honestly, kind of with all three of these, if we're being honest, much like the Haunted Beauty collection, the thing that is making them feel sort of alternative is like the coloring and like the way the makeup is done. But I don't know. You guys suggested it and I put it in the video. So at least a couple of us agree on this one. So it's fine. It gets to be included. And she's beautiful. Like, I'm not going to miss an opportunity to get to talk about her. Then the last one. Okay, you know what? No, I do think this is my favorite. This is the Empress of the Aliens. And she takes my breath away. This doll is so wild. She's hitting like all of the themes. She's hitting fantasy, sort of like the, more stereotypical, like elves and fairies sort of fantasy. She's hitting like the space fantasy. She's hitting just like dark and edgy. And I just love her. I love literally every single thing about this doll. There's not one thing that I would change. I think this unbelievable black green, sort of like deep purpley pink color combination is so, so gorgeous. And like the purple and like the green color, I feel like that can be kind of tricky to pull off because if the purplish pinkish sort of color leans too red, I do feel like it can get Christmassy quite quick, but it doesn't happen in this one. It's definitely enough of a deep color for that to not be an issue. She's just unreal. I think I might have talked about this Barbie in a Grail doll video where I was just like, yeah, I'm never going to have the money to own her, but I would love to because she is beyond breathtaking to me. Okay, I'm not being intentionally punny, but we're going to go ahead and bring it back down to earth once again and take a look at the Harley Davidson Barbies. This is another line, much like the Hard Rock ones, that like there are a lot of these dolls. I'm just going to show you a couple of them because like we'd be here for quite some time if I was going to show you every single one of the Harley Davidson Barbies. These are interesting to me because I honestly was like debating for half a second if I think that they're edgy enough for this video for like my qualifications of edgy. I just like, I don't know if it's maybe that like times have changed or like it's just that I tend to think of like more extreme alternative looks when I think alternative. But to me, riding a motorcycle and then wearing leather to ride the motorcycle isn't that edgy. Like, I don't know. Is that like a bad thing to say? Is that like insulting? I'm sorry if that's like bad to the biker community. I think especially the way that they're styled in my head, I'm like, yeah, the leather is there to protect you in case you like get in a crash and like you hit the road, like hit the pavement. But I guess I guess the look is sort of edgy. I don't know. We're including it in the video. It was like kind of teetering the line for me. So I'm very curious to hear what y'all have to say about all of these, but like especially these. I don't know. I'm just nosy about like what is considered alternative, right? Like, how do you even define that? Anywho, this first one, she's got kind of like an orange and black theme going on here. It doesn't look like the bike she comes with is real. Like, this is, like, printed on the back there, which is interesting because I don't think they all had one printed in the box. I could be wrong. I've seen a few of these at secondhand stores, and I now, like, my memory's escaping me, and I can't remember what the boxes look like. There was at least one that did come with a bike, and I think that that's very, very fun. But just in general, these are pretty cool dolls here. Again, like, whether they qualify for edgy or not, I think depends on maybe who you're asking. But I do think that they're really fun. I think this was a cool collab. The edgiest thing to me about this doll is perhaps like the belt and pants, but definitely the hair is giving me like sort of 2000s edgy vibes. I don't know, she's interesting. And then we had this other one to take a look at, and she's got like some pieces that read almost preppy to me, which is fascinating. But I guess like combining preppy and then alternative elements, like in this Barbie, I mean, like the jacket feels very like, I mean, again, like it depends on what you classify, but that feels sort of edgier to me. But then like the shirt kind of feels preppy. So I guess that's a type of edge. I don't know. It's just sort of fascinating. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight a couple of these different Harley Davidson Barbies because, again, you guys submitted them. So some of you guys are like, oh, this is it. This is the one. This is the edgy Barbie. But yeah, I don't know. They're pretty fun. They're pretty cool. Just two more to take a look at. So this next one is another more fantasy in the realm of edgy vibes. And this is the Flight of Fashion Barbie doll, which I had never seen before today. She is a stunner. This is just like a dark fairy, basically. Just like instead of, the bright, colorful, like Fairytopia style fairies that I think you might typically associate with Barbie, this one's definitely a lot more, again, like dark in color scheme. She's got some edgy elements, like the sort of like tendrils on her gown, the corsetting top. It's also quite low cut, which like for Barbie could be considered more edgy. Like they're definitely more willing to do that sort of thing on like a collector doll versus maybe a playline doll. But I think it adds to the edge. And we've got like some fishnet like mock gloves. She's so cool. I think the hairstyle is very fun again. This little like teardrop pendant sort of situation going down her forehead is really, really beautiful. I'm really drawn to the wings. Like whatever fabric, it looks like fabric is used for the wings there. Whatever fabric that is, I am entranced by. It's so interesting. I also love how the skirt's done, how like it sort of feels a little bit like an ombre, even though it's not like a proper ombre. She's so beautiful. So pretty. And then lastly, this is the Barbie and the Rockers reunion tour doll. The person who messaged me about this had like several pictures, but I couldn't, like when I looked it up, this was the only one that came up. So I don't know if this was part of a line or what. Feel free to educate me in the comments here. But let's just take a look at her for a second because wow, she's so cool. The layers on this skirt are bonkers to me. Like there's so many different types of fabric and so many different like cuts. It's not like, oh, here's one neat layer and here's the next neat layer. It's all over the place. And I think that definitely helps to contribute to that sort of alternative vibe where it's not perfectly pristine. It's definitely a little messy. And I really, really like that. The sort of like netting fabric. That's really drawing my attention. I adore it. She has like this chain with a little skull and crossbones at her waist and then a cross at the neck. She's such a vibe. She's such a vibe. I shudder to think of what she must cost. I don't really want to know. I don't need to be adding anything else to my secondhand doll wish list because, like, there's already too much on there and things are already too expensive. Like, I don't need to know about these. Realistically, making this video was in some ways a mistake because now I know about more dolls and I don't necessarily want to be aware of more dolls. But also, they're so gorgeous and definitely quite alternative to me. But yes, that is going to round us out. I do find it quite fascinating how few like everyday sort of style Barbies really were on this list. I know, again, like you guys did submit more, but these are the ones that feel like the most alternative to me. And it's so interesting to me that like if you're going just on again, like would wear this or could wear this every day without getting like insane stares. Cause like you can dress like the Empress of the Aliens every day if you want. I don't care, but like people are going to ask questions. Whereas like the Hard Rock Cafe Barbies, you might get some looks, but like, that's like a little bit more societally acceptable. But point is I just think it's really interesting that those definitely feel less common. And also all of the everyday-ish like designs that we took a look at were collabs. Like there was Tokidoki and Harley Davidson and Hard Rock Cafe, and those are definitely more like everyday, like wearable looks. And they're also all collaborations. Whereas the only time that it seems like Barbie herself, like alone, goes fully edgy is when it also ties into another theme, whether that's like fantasy or like slightly historical or like the alien ones. So I just thought that was really, really fascinating that it just seems like something that doesn't it's not something that Barbie does on like a casual level. It feels like for herself. It's only like a collaboration thing. To be fair, I understand that Barbie's image is not necessarily in line with that when it comes to Playline dolls. Like she's definitely more, again, like pinks and pastels and like super girly. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like that's a vibe in and of itself. But it was just sort of fascinating to take a look at and realize all of these are either collaborations or like collector dolls. So when it comes to Playline, Barbie really sticks to her zone, and then she just does some other stuff when like other people are involved and like there's collectors involved. So yeah, this was just sort of fun to dive into. Hopefully slightly shorter. I don't know how long I've been talking, but hopefully not too long. But thank you again to everyone who submitted dolls for me to take a look at for today's video. As I said earlier, I would love to know your thoughts on the Barbies that we discussed, and also if you have any other like edgy Barbies that I didn't talk about today, whether that's ones that you commented and I didn't include and like you want to defend them, or just ones that like I didn't include or like weren't submitted at all. I would love to hear about that in the comments down below. But that is going to be it for me for today, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or your night, or whatever it might be, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.